I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings,
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
All right, welcome back to the Bodybuilding Legends Podcast. I have my good friend Jerry Brainum with us again today, and we are continuing our discussion that we do at the end of each year, where we review the year in review. And so we go back 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So we already talked about 1973. We also talked about 1963 on some previous episodes. So now, Jerry, we're going to talk about the year 1983, which was a really big year in bodybuilding. A lot of stuff happening that year, and that was already 40 years ago, if you can believe it.
Amazing.
But one of the, by this point, the year before, in 1982, the NPC had started. So they had their split with the AAU, because for years, Weider was trying to work with the AAU to have them handle the amateur competitions. And I think for a couple of years with the Mr. America, they did kind of affiliate the AAU and the IFBB.
Right.
But for some reason, they split off, and the Weider organization finally decided, let's just start our own amateur organization. So they called it the NPC, the National Physique Committee, which is still going strong today, 40 years later.
Right.
The first one they had was won by Lee Haney. So this is 1983. This is the second year. And when I was looking over the Mr. America, which was the AAU, compared to the NPC Nationals, which they're similar, levels, it looked like the NPC was already a bigger organization, because they had 81 competitors in their men's division, and the AAU America only had 55. So I think people were already deciding, they were going to go with the NPC, because they knew that was the way you get your pro card, and then eventually, if you wanted to be a bodybuilder and be in the Mr. Olympia, that was the way to go.
Yeah, the AAU was already on the way out by then.
Yeah.
Right down. Although they did hold Mr. Americas after that, but towards the end there, even the AAU America, it got literally no publicity. That's the amazing thing. I mean, the last couple of AAU America, since then, I think a couple of people have tried to resurrect the AAU America.
Yeah.
Like you never, there's no photos, there's nothing.
Right.
You don't know who won. The last couple of AAU Americas that were under the AAU banner, I mean, I didn't even know who these people are. I mean, they got no publicity, nothing about them. So they won a famous title, AAU Mr. America, but it was literally worth nothing to them. They didn't even get the traditional trip. You remember years back, the guy who won the AAU America, I don't know whether it was a York company with muscular development, they would pay their way to compete in, that's what happened with Vern Weaver, pay their way to compete in the NABBA universe. You can get that.
Right.
The last couple of AAU Americas, they got a title, but it was worth almost nothing.
Yeah.
But that's, compared to the way it used to be treated.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first got in body, everybody knew who Mr. America was. I mean, he was all over the place, especially not so much in the Weider magazines, but in New York magazines, Muscular Development, Strength and Health. They had constant articles.
Yeah.
Like I say, one of the only ones who didn't was Jerry Daniels, had almost no publicity, and Vern Weaver had very little publicity. But all the other guys had plenty. Joe Benda had a lot of at 62.
Yeah.
Val Vasilith in 64 had a lot of publicity, so I don't know. What can I say? So
you mentioned the magazines too. So by this point in 83, I mean, Weider had now Flex magazine.
Right.
And they also had Muscle and Fitness magazine. And those, I think, were probably two of the biggest magazines. But then you also had Bob Kennedy's Muscle Mag International. You still had Perry Rader's IronMan. And you also had Muscular Development. And you also had Muscle Digest. So there's a lot of magazines. So I think if it wasn't a Weider magazine, at least back then and 40 years ago, they would still cover the NABBA universe, or they would cover the AAU, or they would cover those WABA shows too,
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I actually had articles in the very first two issues of Flex magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because the initial editor-in-chief of Flex was Bill Dobbins.
Yeah.
It was more well known as a photographer, but he does writing also. And he asked me to write 2 articles. Actually, it was a 2-part article. I think it was something to do with can you be bulky yet shapely, something like that.
Yeah, I've got those issues, so I've got those articles. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, on the very first issue of Flex, it was Chris Dickerson was the cover man
Yeah. After he won the Olympia.
holding the Olympia trophy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the AAU America first, because even though it was a smaller show, that was pretty well known that year because the winner was Jeff King, and he was an outstanding bodybuilder. I remember being in Chicago. The gym I trained at was a smaller, hardcore gym, but we had a lot of good, like, state and regional level competitors, and these guys were all going to go. Chicago, for some reason, was always really strongly AAU based. In fact, I remember even when the NPC started, it took years. We were one of the first states, or last states, I should say, to really make the switch over to the NPC. I remember they were trying to get the NPC into Chicago for a while, and for some reason they just weren't. It wasn't taking on. It took a couple of years, I think, till like '85 before it really took off.
Right.
But a lot of those guys from my gym, they were going to go into the Mr. America, and I remember everybody looking at pictures of Jeff King, going like, "Wow, this is the guy who's Mr. America." I mean, he was so phenomenal. His leg development was like Tom Platt's, and he had that huge neck, and that his most muscular was so freaky. You know, he was an outstanding bodybuilder.
When I first saw Jeff King, I actually never saw him in person. I never met Jeff King, but I probably would have if he would have gone into the IFBB. We could talk about what happened there, but the thing is that the first thing I noticed about him was his neck.
Yeah.
I said, geez, he's got a big neck for a bodybuilder. Most of the guys had either average size necks, some have even had skinny necks.
Yeah, yeah.
I had this huge, big neck. I'm thinking, is that a genetic thing or does he actually work his neck?
I think he worked it.
Must have worked. It was very, but I mean, he got a kind of a raw deal there later on.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they want him to compete again to qualify in the IFBB, something like that?
Yeah. I did an interview with him, and he said he was doing, at the time, he was doing both NPC and AAU shows.
Yeah.
But the reason he chose to do the America was he always wanted to be Mr. America. You know, he was like us, and when he grew up, Mr. America was that coveted title. So he said, okay, well, that's the show that has the Mr. America title. That's the one I'm going to do. So that's why he did it. But yeah, and then he had a very successful business as a professional, because he was doing a lot of tours in England and in Europe, not in England, but Europe, like John Brown was. And he was doing a lot of seminars and a lot of guest posing. And I think it lasted a few years. I mean, I think it lasted like 2 or 3 years. And then when he finally decided to try to come over to the IFBB, he told me that it was all set. He was going to do the 85 and Night of the Champions, and they were going to give him an invite, and he was going to go. And he was in shape, and he was, dieting. And right before, they told him it's off. You got to go back. You got to start at the amateur level. And he said, I have too much to lose. I'm not going to give up all these seminars and all this money I'm making to try to get my pro card. I'm not going to do it.
What was the reasoning for him forcing him to go back into it?
I don't know. I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was, Mannion or Wayne D'Amelia or who. I think he said it might have been D'Amelia.
Doesn't make any sense. This is the guy who had won the AAU Mr. I mean, why would he need to go? It made no sense whatsoever.
No.
You certainly couldn't fault him for not having a pro level physique. He would have been right up there with those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a mystery that I guess only D'Amelia, whoever did it, would have to answer that.
Yeah.
They had a lot of
they let a lot of other people come over. Like they let Bertil Fox come over, Eduardo Kawak, a lot of guys who were NABBA winners. They let them come over, even John Brown. So
Right.
I don't know. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So in that competition, they had height classes. The AAU still did height classes. And the short class winner was a guy named Larry Bernstein. Are you familiar with him, Jerry?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Did you interview him?
Yeah, he was from Chicago, so I kind of knew of him when I was growing up. He was a little bit older than me, but kind of a shorter guy, but real good physique. I mean, good proportions, real thick, super thick.
I remember him. Yeah, I remember. And you interviewed him with was a guy named Glenn Kinnear,
Glenn Kinnear, yeah.
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 Yeah. But I remember both of those guys. Glenn Kinnear actually won the AAU America, didn't he?
Yeah, he won it in '86, so just a few years later. Yeah. So I'll read a couple of the guys Larry beat. William Hatcher, who also had a really thick physique. He was second. Al Kirsch, who was a guy from Chicago. He was third. Bob Jokowitz, who was also in the NPC, right?
Bob Jocko's a good friend of mine. I knew him at Gold's Gym around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And Phil Outlaw, who was an older bodybuilder, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He was fifth.
Yeah.
And then the medium class was won by Jesse Goutreau from Louisiana. Do you remember him?
Yeah, he had a brother also was a bodybuilder.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good physique. Not really big, but he had the mustache.
Right.
Yeah, and he was a really good symmetry and always in hard condition.
Yeah.
And then Bob Reese was second. Remember Bob Reese, big Bob Reese. Yeah, he's been around forever.
Saw him a couple of times when he came out to California. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that guy was phenomenally strong. I did an interview with John Lloyd, who was Boston Lloyd's father.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And John ran one of the Gold's gyms in San Francisco. I think it was one of the first ones that they franchised.
Okay.
And he was there in the morning, and he said Bob Reese used to come in the morning, like, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning, and he'd be drinking chocolate milk and eating a donut.
Oh.
And he would go to the bench and he would start with 2 plates, and he'd go to 3 and he'd go to 4, and like by himself, just pausing, and you could hear the plates rattling, you know.
Wow.
He said this guy was a powerhouse.
Wow. Well, him eating donuts while training,
Right.
that's probably set the stage for Planet Muscle, Planet Fitness.
Yeah, right.
They have once a month they have a donut day where they
Yeah.
donuts. And this is right in the gym. They have a pizza day once a month and a donut day. And they just lay it out there, and the members can eat as many donuts as they want. Of course,
Right.
that fits in well with the concept of fitness and health. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, what a freak.
Oh,
He was from Wisconsin, I think. So he was another guy from the Midwest, and real
guy.
big guy. He was always in the America, or then I think he tried to go in the NPC, but it seemed like he never could get cut enough.
That's it. Yeah, the problem was the muscle definition.
He got close, but he never made it. So the medium tall class was the one that Jeff King won. That was, I think, the biggest class of the night. There were 17 guys in that class. And Phil Rohde was the guy who took second. And I know Phil because he was also from Illinois.
Right.
And he had a really impressive physique. Very, very big guy. Real massive delts.
Yeah.
I remember, I was younger at the time. He was obviously a few years older than me at the time. But I used to see him compete in Chicago. And he won all the big shows in Chicago.
Right.
And kind of a mean-looking guy too. I think he won his class at this show like a year later.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, the year before when Rufus Howard won. He won his class then.
Rufus, yeah.
But he got involved, I believe, with the mob.
Oh,
I heard the mob killed him.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's several stories about how he died, but he died not too many years after this. He didn't live a long life.
Terrible.
Yeah. And Rick Poston was third. Remember Rick?
Sure.
From
Florida? Yeah. I remember him, sure.
In fact, this Mr. America took place in Tampa, Tampa, Florida. And I think Rick was from Tampa. He had a gym, and there was a lot of, I think it was a Gold's Gym, and a lot of wrestlers used to train there, like Hulk Hogan and stuff,
Right.
But Rick had great abs, remember? And his wife was competing too. I think his wife was in the show, and she did really well in the contest too. Debbie Poston.
I remember her too, sure.
And then Billy Arlen was fourth. You remember Billy from Texas?
Right, sure.
And then our old friend Doug Brignoli was fifth at this contest.
Good friend Doug, yeah. Doug Brignoli.
Yeah. And then the tall class, Marty Varanikar won the tall class. Remember Marty? He was from the East Coast, right?
Yeah. I think he's still around. I think
he is, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him and his brother both had great legs. They just had incredible leg development,
Right.
And some of these other guys I don't really know. Steve Kavanaugh, he was a taller guy. Jeff Munson was from Chicago. He was third. Sam Pasco was fourth, and Craig Cole was fifth.
Don't know any of those guys.
Yeah, but Jeff King was obviously the easy overall winner, so he was pretty incredible that year.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fabulous pose down. Each one of these competitors is the best. It's going to be very difficult, I think, and very hard fought pose down. Right at this moment.
Okay, gentlemen, what we're going to do is do the quarter turn, so stand relaxed, please, for the judges.
Right now, it's not leaning in any specific direction. We see some outrageous thigh development in Jeff King. Outrageous. He also has the upper body to go along with it.
Quarter turn to the right.
Very, very large back. His legs are even cut from the back. Great calf development. He could be pulling this thing out right now at this moment just by standing there flexed. He seems to be actually dwarfing the other competitors. If you look at King's back and you look at the other competitors' back, he's just so much larger.
Quarter turn to the right.
Well, I would say King. He's got everything. And they all do, but King has more of it.
I would go with King at this point. I would agree with you thoroughly.
He's got to continue through, though. It's not over yet. If he makes any gross mistakes, it's it could go any way. See, in a pose like that, King really comes on. He's showing his legs to the judges. He's showing his biceps. He's just overpowering everybody. The judges' eyes are probably going right directly to King. I think even the audience has a feeling, that this might go King's way. Great abdominal development on all of them. But you notice King is sticking that leg right out, showing it right to the judges at the same time as he flexes the abs. Now this is all leg. There's nobody up there that's going to compare to his legs. Nobody in this whole competition.
Quarter turn to the right.
Those legs have enough muscle on them to feed China for about 5 years. Great side chest. He's showing us his leg from the side, his calf from the side, and showing us a good rib cage also. Now look at the cuts in King's tricep. His tricep is actually cut. You don't see that on the other competitors.
Relax. Quarter turn to the right.
Definition is tremendous.
Double arms up. Lat spread.
I have a feeling he's pulling away. Rear lat spread.
Calf raise. Calf raise.
And Jeff's got them all there too.
Relax.
And Jeff's got them all there too.
Relax.
You can actually see his tendons moves in his calves.
Side chest.
Watch this side chest from this side. It's very interesting. You'll notice the depth in the rib cage in King as opposed to the shallowness in Goudreau.
Side tricep.
Again, we got the cuts in the tricep. Larry has cuts in his tricep too, but they're just not as deep as King's.
Most muscular.
This is going to be an interesting shot here. There goes the leg first with King, and now the most muscular to the top. I think he's got it, folks. He's ripped.
Okay, relax.
To the top. I think he's got it, folks. He's ripped.
Okay, relax. You know what I want you to do is 30 seconds of posing. Your choice.
They're going to get to do now whatever they want. You're going to notice King's going to show those legs right away. He's not going to hold back at all. All of his shots probably will be the legs, calves, a lot of chest shots. He's got a great chest. It's interesting to see how the other competitors are going to fight this off. They're trying to draw attention to each other, but I don't think they're having much luck. King is in the middle, and I think he's drawing most of the attention.
Okay, time. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Mr. America 1983 and Jeff King.
I think it's a very popular decision. There doesn't seem to be any doubt, even among the competitors on stage.
Well, a tremendous ovation. Everyone is so excited on this.
Yeah, as the winner. He's just so enormous, so well put together and cut.
The new Mr. America. The new Mr. America 1983, Jeff King.
New class winner here, folks. There's a definite possibility. New class winner.
Third place to Rick Poston. Leads to the second.
Right or wrong? Okay.
And I just want to win more than anything else. This is a lifelong dream. You know, when I started bodybuilding, I want to be Mr. America. So this is a dream. This is inside.
Okay. All right. Now I just have one.
Ben, are you going to arm wrestle?
Did he go on to compete in the NABBA universe that year? Or?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that next.
Okay.
So he went over to the NABBA universe and he won, and he beat out John Brown.
So he did win the NABBA universe.
Yeah.
Sure of that. Okay.
And Marty Varanikar was third in the tall class.
All right.
some of the other guys in it. Vince Brown, who I believe was from England, he was first in the medium class. You remember him?
No, I don't recall him.
And Bob Reese was third in that contest, so he went over. And
Yeah.
Terry Phillips won the short class.
Yeah, but Terry Phillips, British bodybuilder.
Yeah, he was around for many years, right? In the NABBA universe.
That's true.
And Mike Sable, the zipper, he was second.
Oh, Mike, yeah.
And then Larry Bernstein, who won the short class at the America, was third.
Okay.
So yeah, Jeff King had a pretty amazing year, winning the America and the universe, and then beating out John Brown.
Who won the, what about the pro division? That was the amateur, right?
Yeah, the pro was Eduardo Kawak.
Oh, my good friend Eduardo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you the story about Eduardo, about when he was competing as a pro, hanging out with him. And
Yeah, you guys went to his gym and he was eating hamburgers.
what happened? Yeah, he was competing in the Grand Prix circuit. I think this was 87. And, I got real friendly. We became good friends. And one time he approached a bunch of the guys and he said, he lived in Nice. One of the contests that time, one of the contests was being held in Cannes, France, where they hold the movie
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Eduardo lived in Nice, which was neighboring town, wasn't that far away, maybe 30 minutes away.
Okay.
Wanted to show everybody his gym. He had just opened a gym. Nobody wanted to go.
Right.
I said, I called him Ed. I said, Ed, I'll go with you, sure. And we went over there, and quite honestly, I don't know why, but I expected this kind of crappy gym with lousy equipment, and I was stunned when I walked in the gym. Beautiful, brand new equipment. I mean, everything was modern. It looked great. I met his wife, I think, and then he says to me, remember he had a contest that night, and he says to me, "Yeah, are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah, kind of, yeah." He says, "Let's go get a pizza."
Oh, pizza.
Yeah, but later on in another contest in not S in what was the name of that town? I can't remember the city. Later in another contest in the same circuit, he went out in the middle of the night. We went out and had McDonald's style cheeseburgers the next day. Now, we shared this large cheese pizza there in Nice, and I kept saying, Eduardo, are you sure this is okay? I mean, you're going to compete like 8 hours away. I mean, aren't you afraid of water with all the sodium and all that? He says, I'll be all right. I'll tell you, John, people don't realize what an amazing specimen Eduardo Kawak was.
Yeah.
He competed. He didn't have a drop of water retention. His abs are thick. I mean, he looked great.
Wow.
I think he actually won the NABBA universe. I forget whether it was 4 or 5 times. I don't remember.
I was looking at it now. He won it 4 times.
4 times. He actually equaled Bill Pearl.
Right. And Arnold.
Yeah, and Arnold. I mean, this is a guy, for some strange reason, though, he never did well in the IFBB. He never.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why do you think that was? Because I always said he had great physique.
I witnessed him competing, like I say, and he was right up there.
Yeah.
He had no weak points. He had calves. He had back. His arms were great.
Super thick legs.
Super thick leg. Except the only thing I could think of, he wasn't ripped.
Oh. Okay.
Some of the other guys were ripped. So, and I don't think it was because he ate the pizza before. It wouldn't make him, it's just that he was in great shape, had great abs, but he didn't have the ultra definition that some of these other guys had. I think that's what, kept him down. I guess
You think he was more ripped when he was winning the NABBA universe?
He was a little bit more cut when he was winning the NABBA.
Yeah, because when I saw pictures and videos from that, I mean, he looked really ripped in those
Yeah,
shows.
yeah, I think that maybe he tried to gain a little more size to compete as a pro with the IFBB, and it might have hurt him a little bit as far as muscle.
He had those freaky abs, like an 8-pack. Yeah.
Really great abs. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I asked him what he did for his abs. I don't know whether he said he trained him or not.
Probably didn't.
A lot of the guys who had great abs, like another example of this was Milo Sarchev.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing him once when he was competing the night of the champions, and I said, Milos, your abs are particularly impressive. You must work them like crazy. And I thought he'd say, well, I do this, I do that. He says, I don't do anything for abs. He says, I work them 4 days before the contest. The rest of the I never do a single sit-up or leg raise.
Unbelievable.
And, you got to sit back and think, what about all these guys that are training, like Frank Zane telling people to do 1,000 reps of abs?
Yeah, he used to do abs every day.
All these people working their abs like crazy, and here's these guys not even doing a sit-up or leg raise, and had better abs than the guys who are knocking themselves out.
Right. Didn't
what,
Sergeant Bray used to train his abs a lot, though?
yeah, he did. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. Yeah, he did.
You would think these guys that got the really deep abs would train them hard, because that's the only way you could get that kind of deep separation, right?
Right. Well, I remember Mike Mentzer, what he used to do is he used to do a type of sit-up. He'd hook his legs under the benches, kind of, you remember that Roman chair thing?
Yeah,
Lean back and do sit-ups like that. Because
you told me that, yeah.
Because Mike wasn't a believer in doing high reps for abs like a lot of, he felt that you should train your abs like any other muscle. If you
Right.
train your muscles once or twice a week, you do your abs once or twice a week. So he did 1 or 2 sets with this type of sit-up. And I remember him holding like 100-pound plate,
Jeez.
very heavy weights when he did
Yeah.
those. And that's what he did. I mean, so Mike was lucky though. He had a very narrow waist.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
That really helped him. That he was lucky like that.
But his stomach was sticking out a lot, and some of
Yeah.
the when he would relax his abs,
I'll tell you what, I think it was because of those sit-ups.
Me too. Yeah, because that was before growth hormone and insulin, so it wasn't from the drugs.
But you have to remember when he did the sit-ups, he went all the way back and like he stretched his abs in the back position. His abs are all, remember, holding 100-pound plate on your chest and you go all the way back. He stretched his abs. So I think what happens is he had abdominals, but when they relax, his abs are so stretched out.
Yeah.
Could relax. It looked like a pot belly. It wasn't. Believe me, it wasn't fat.
No, I don't think so.
Just had stretched his abs out.
I'd be afraid of getting a hernia by doing that.
Oh, I'd be worried about the lower back because he's
Yeah.
hyperextending his back. I used to I used to turn away when I'd see him do it.
Right.
I didn't even have lower back problems back then, but just and if I did that, forget it. My lower back would go right out.
Right. Yeah, so it looks like Eduardo went over to the IFBB finally in '86.
You did? Oh, Eduardo, yeah.
Yeah, he finally.
The story I told you took place in '87.
Yeah.
So that'd be about right. It's a shame that he never won a IFBB pro title after winning so many NABBA universes.
Yeah, he was so highly regarded as a NABBA universe winner. I remember he was almost like a legend, because he would win year after year.
Yeah, I was really very saddened when I heard he just dropped dead of a heart attack.
What was a heart attack?
Yeah, he was in his late 40s, something like 48. Wow. Yeah, I just was very sad. He's such a nice guy, just a really sweet guy. Like then you couldn't help but like this guy.
Yeah.
He took a photo with my mother once at the night of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was just one of the nicest guys I've ever met in bodybuilding. A really nice guy.
He passed away a long time ago, right? It's been
quite a while. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Ian Lawrence was second. Remember Ian?
Yeah, English guy.
Yeah, kind of short.
Yeah, thick abs. Another guy with thick abs. Kind of blocky physique, but thick abs. Muscular, but not really aesthetic looking.
Right. Yeah, Ian won the universe back in '75, so this was quite a few years later. He was still competing in the pros.
Right, that's right.
And Rufus Howard, who won the America the year before, he was in third place.
Yeah, Rufus Howard he was always an enigma to me because I'd see him at Gold's Gym. He was training and he'd say hello to you if you said hello to him, but he always he kind of reminded me of Dave Johns personality wise.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very low key, not nasty but he'd be friendly if you're talking, but he kind of kept to himself.
Yeah.
He did his workout and left. Didn't talk to anyone, but it was pretty good. I remember he was tall, about 6'1", 6 foot, 6.
Yeah, big guy, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a Rufus. Another guy who didn't get a lot of publicity.
Yeah, he really didn't do. I mean, the America was like his big claim to fame. He never won the NABBA universe. Looks like he went in it for many years after that, but this was the closest he came when he got he got second in '82, the year he won the America.
Right.
And then it looks like he went over to the pro in 83, which was weird because he never won the amateur.
Yeah.
And Bill Richardson was fourth. And Bob Jokowitz was fifth. Isn't that weird that he was in the America and he didn't win his class? And then he goes over to the universe and he goes into the pro universe instead of the amateur. That's kind of weird.
Can't explain that.
Yeah. Let's see. Some of these other national level shows. The AAU Junior Mr. USA winner that year was Quincy Roberts.
Quincy Roberts, yeah.
And the AAU Junior Mr. America winner was Michael McKinley, who he never really went on and did anything big.
That guy I never heard of. Yeah.
But the AAU Mr. USA winner was JJ Marsh. So JJ was competing. He started off competing in the AAU before he went over to the NPC, and then he had better success with the NPC because he eventually turned pro.
Yeah, JJ was a nice guy, very cocky. You know,
Was he? Yeah, I heard that about him.
he's a nice guy, very cocky. I remember he competed, I think I might have been the Arnold show one year, and I was interviewing him in his hotel room. I don't know. He was sitting there interviewing, and his girlfriend was like sitting a little bit away, and he would kind of like snap he'd go like this, and she'd bring him like coffee, whatever, she already. I mean, I said, what kind of relationship is this?
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, but that for some reason stands out in my mind.
Yeah, he ended up having a really good physique, though. He had really good legs and really good back.
Right.
He won the IronMan Pro in 91, the second year they had it.
Yeah. Yep. I do remember him, sure.
All right, let's talk about the NPC, because that was a great NPC Nationals, one of the best, I think, in the history of the NPC Nationals. It was held in San Jose, California. The promoter was Paul Love.
I was at that one.
You were at that one, okay.
I wasn't covering it for the magazines, but I went there.
Okay, good.
I went there with, I don't remember whether he was competing or not. I can't remember. But I went there with two friends of mine. One of them, a guy you might have heard of named Jeep Swenson.
Oh, yeah, the big guy, yeah, who died of, I heard that.
A couple of movies in Batman and,
Yeah.
Sometimes worked as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether he competed or we just went up there. I don't remember. But I went up with him and another friend of mine. We went up to the contest, And I'll tell you a funny story about that show. Bob Paris won, which we'll talk about in a second. But, Bob Paris had not, I don't think he had come out as gay yet.
No, it was until 88.
But everybody in bodybuilding knew that he was gay.
Oh, really? Okay.
We all knew. Everybody knew. But he didn't actually, I guess the expression is coming out of whatever. And we after the prejudging, everybody went to a local restaurant in San Jose. And I was sitting with Artie Zeller and a couple of other guys. Across the couple of tables away, Mike was, what's his name? Bob was sitting with a blonde guy. I think his name was Rod. I can't remember his name, who he later wound up marrying after he came out. He married this guy. Sitting together, very good looking guys. Remember, Bob was in great shape, dark tan, handsome guy.
Yeah, the night of the show. Yeah, he couldn't look better on that day.
Right. The guy, his boyfriend, was a blonde guy. He was a male model. So
okay.
He's also a very handsome guy, right? With a good build too.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm looking around the room, and I said to Artie, Artie, check this out. I said, every woman in the room is staring at Rod and Bob. Look at them, all looking at him. I mean, they're practically in heat looking at these two guys.
Right.
I said, isn't it funny that they, neither one of those guys would have anything to do with any of these women, and yet they're frothing at the mouth because these guys are good looking. We got to laugh about that,
How were they able to keep that secret for so long? Because there's just magazines, right? No social media or anything. So,
it's a good question. I don't know, but like I say, everyone in bodybuilding knew that Bob was gay.
Yeah.
He just didn't come out with it publicly until.
And you would never know it by reading the magazines, but.
Oh, no, you would know by reading the mag. And, Bob, you couldn't tell that he was homosexual by talking to the guy.
Yeah.
deep voice. He was a very intelligent guy. He went on to write a couple of books.
Yeah.
And, I interviewed him a couple of times. But there was no indication. I'm not saying that gay guys wear shirts that are pink or anything, nothing like that. But but I'm trying to say he seemed like a masculine guy.
Yeah.
He didn't give any type of gay aura, let's put it that way. Neither did his boyfriend, the blonde guy, also seemed like a masculine guy. You'd never know these guys were gay.
Yeah. Well, I remember Bob always dressed really nice. He always spoke really well. He didn't dress like a typical bodybuilder. He just
Oh,
like
he wear
an
suits.
EQ model,
Yeah, he'd wear suits and ties. I mean, the guy was a classy guy.
Yeah.
Bob Paris. Bob Paris is one of the truly seasoned professionals of our day. I think he's a little bit ahead of his time right now. I mean, I don't think that the bodybuilding world is ready to accept a GQ, good-looking type guy who will represent the 90s bodybuilder.
Bob's weight is 226, 226 pounds.
Bob has a deep-rooted sense of professionalism that he exhibits everywhere he goes. The way he carries himself, the way he shakes hands with the people, the eye contact he makes, and he feels very confident about himself, and he likes himself. And when you identify with Bob on stage, you like yourself too, because he likes himself. I mean, the girls ooh over Bob, and everybody feels that. Kind of an earthy kind of a guy that works from a center of confidence. And I think that's Bob Paris. Bob's an artist molding a very pleasing physique. He reminds me of Steve Reeves, modern day Steve Reeves.
What I'm trying to present when I'm working in an artistic realm is the beauty of the human form. And I try to get across more than just the two-dimensional that's on the piece of paper. And I'm trying to put a personality across. And I think that's one of my main strengths as a bodybuilder, is that I can cross over to a general public market and appeal to not only the hardcore bodybuilding fan, which I am very much a hardcore bodybuilder, but also to the artistic fan and to the person walking down the street. Won't be offended by my physique, but yet it still has the ability to be a Mr. Olympia. Obviously, I wouldn't be going through all of this if I didn't expect that I was going to win a competition, but I also train with a picture in my mind of the perfect physique as it relates to me. And so when I'm training, I'm picturing that perfect physique and trying to attain that. If that happens to coincide with what the judges want, then that's fantastic. But when it comes down to the bottom line, I guess in coming back to bodybuilding now and training again, my bottom line is to win the Mr. Olympia. I mean, that's the big draw that brings me back to it.
Any of the guys who placed in the top 10 could very well win it someday. I mean, Bob Paris is no exception. Bob Paris would make a great Mr. Olympia. He'd be a great spokesman and a great representative. Although his time has not come yet. And I think that's one of the reasons he's back. Bob Paris announced retirement, and he's back. I think the reason he's back is because he wasn't allowed, or he didn't allow himself to really tap his full potential.
I was interested in pursuing some other activities and kind of burned out, kind of frustrated, feeling like I wasn't really advancing and had a real need to refresh myself in some way. Not in a bodybuilding sense, but inside myself. I need to grow some more.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Like I say, he had a brain. He was smart.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very interesting to talk to. I mean, I remember interviewing him, and I cracked a couple of jokes, as I always do, and he didn't seem to care for that. I mean,
what was the joke? You remember?
I don't remember what it was, but it was kind of like the same deal I had with Steve Reeves.
Right.
I told you the story when I said a joke to Reeves, he just stared at me. Well, Bob did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because some people have compared his physique to Steve Reeves.
Yeah, I was going to say that because he was called the modern day Steve Reeves, and
good.
He really did look a lot like Steve because he was tall like Steve, and he had good leg development like Steve had. Yeah,
and a lot of people don't know this about Bob Paris, is that Bob, one of his original mentors, was a guy he competed against. Might have been at that show. You'll have to check.
He
Remind
was Rory Leidelmeyer, yeah.
Rory
He was second.
Leidelmeyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rory Leidelmeyer was his I think original bodybuilding mentor. They used to train together.
Right. I read that in Bob's book.
And I knew Rory pretty well. I still sometimes we still communicate through Facebook. He's still in great shape, by the way.
Yeah, he still trains really hard.
Right. And the thing I once said to Rory, I said, because he trained John something or other. Was it John
Arnita?
He trained him too. And when I started to, when I was covering all the bodybuilding shows, I noticed the pattern. I knew who Rory was training. I knew who the bodybuilders he worked with, and I noticed the pattern. When all of these guys, including Bob Paris, when they turned to the side, including of course Rory himself, they had extraordinary leg bicep development. It almost became like a signature. And I remember saying to Rory, I said, I can always tell the guys you work with because all of them have great leg bicep development. He says, yeah, he says, we train the leg biceps hard because so many guys are deficient in that muscle.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of when he was telling me the story, I was thinking of another guy who I knew, Cal Scalick.
Yeah.
Cal Scalick, it looked like his leg bicep had been surgically removed. He had his thighs weren't that bad from the front, but he had no leg bicep at all. Nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Nothing there at all. But all those other guys, so.
I remember reading Rory's routines because there was a lot of articles written by him. He was really popular.
Yeah.
And he would do like a lot of sets. Like he would take one body part, like just your bicep, your leg biceps. Right. He would do like 6 exercises. He wouldn't do one or two.
Right.
Like he would do like 4 exercises for the side part of your shoulders.
Right. No, that is exactly true. And that's what he did with the leg. That's why those guys had such great. They didn't do like 2 sets of leg curls like a lot of other guys.
Yeah.
These guys entire. I think he told me that they did it and devoted an entire workout to just
the leg biceps.
That's how many sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it wasn't overtraining because all of them, every one of his guys had great leg biceps. So whatever they did worked.
Yeah, he was really extreme. I remember like he would bulk up really big in the off season, right? Because I remember like he would go to shows in the off season. People would see him, and they'd always put his picture in the magazines because like, look at the size of Rory Leidelmeyer. He's like almost 300 pounds. He was huge, He
got close to 300 pounds. But Rory had a great bodybuilding structure. If you see him in person.
Oh yeah, great structure.
He had a naturally small waist, which always helps a bodybuilder. That. And, he had great abs when he was in shape. He had those great deltoids. A lot of people refer to Rory Leidelmeyer as an uncrowned Mr. America because they felt that he could have won the title. And if Bob had been there at that 83 contest, since I was there, I can tell you this, Rory would have won, I believe.
Yeah.
I think for sure he would have won.
Now, did you go to the prejudging and night show, Jerry, or just the night show?
I think what happened at the prejudging, I think I was I wasn't there because me, Cheap, and another guy, we hooked up with a famous, I don't want to embarrass her if she's still alive. We hooked up with a very well-known female judge. She judged the female contest, and she was I didn't actually do it. One of the other guys started talking to her. I won't tell you the details, but we all spent that during the pre-show. We were all together in a hotel room. But the thing is,
this sounds like an interesting story.
Yeah, I remember saying before that incident, because she used to always dress very sexy. She used to wear all these tight clothes and stuff, and she had a nice body. She trained herself.
Okay.
And she was always, very close to the female competitive. And I remember I was covering a contest once, and I said to one of the other guys, I said, so and so, I think she's a lesbian. Because look at her, how she's always has hugging these other girls and this and that, and look, and he says, well, what about her sexy? She's always wearing tight pants. I said, that's to put people off. Let me tell you something, John. After that morning, I realized that she was far from a lesbian.
Was or wasn't?
She was not a lesbian.
Not a lesbian.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, they had the next time I came up across her, they had a 30 or 35th party, anniversary party at Gold's Gym for the 35th anniversary, and she was there. And she said, and I said, hey, nice to see you again, And she says, you remember that day in San Jose? I said, sure. I said, how could I forget? And she just laughed and walked away. We talked for a couple of minutes and walked away, But from what I understand, she went on to be some, realist. She was very, very pretty. She was a very, very good looking woman, but that's why we missed them.
Okay. Because I was reading a report of the Nationals, and I always thought, just from seeing it I saw the video and I saw the pictures in the magazines, and I thought Rory could have won.
Oh yeah,
Bob looked really good, but I thought Rory had a little more thickness and fullness to his physique, in the chest and shoulders,
Well, to be honest with you, when I saw the contest, I had Rory winning myself.
Yeah,
I was there. I mean, I it was close. Because
one of the reports said that at the prejudging he was holding a little water, so maybe that was why he lost.
Yeah, that could be. I didn't see the pre, but I can tell you, you see, it was so close because, Bob had that great aesthetic physique, and Rory was muscular and great shape.
Yeah.
But not only that, but both men were terrific posers. Both men were great poses. Both of them really poses.
Here's Paris.
I don't know whether Rory taught Bob or I don't know whether Bob did it, but they were really excellent poses. So, it was really, I mean, if you had to separate them by points, I think it's maybe 1 to 2 points between them.
It was a 2-point difference, I think, in the final score.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I haven't been, I can tell you, because I mean, like I said, I kind of leaned a little towards Rory, that night.
Well, you mentioned his routine. I thought his routine that night was outstanding. I mean,
fantastic.
Yeah. The reception he got from the crowd, I don't know if people were standing up. I couldn't see the audience, but man, it looked like a standing ovation.
Oh, it was. I mean, I thought he won when they saw that. I said he got it. Rory's going to win.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I'm sure you've seen this. A lot of times, the way the crowd reacts actually influences the judges. It should.
Yeah.
I've seen it many, many times when I've covered bodybuilding contests. Good example was Larry Scott. I hate to go back in the past again.
Yeah.
66 Mr. Olympia, which I also attended.
Yeah.
And I put the story, when Larry came out, they announced his name, and it was like 10 minutes go by and there's nothing. And suddenly the spotlight goes on and they're slowly walking across the stage. There's Larry Scott. And the way the light hit him, it looked like his hair was platinum colored. I still remember this. Slowly. And I'm telling you, John, and I said this to Larry Scott himself years later, I said, in all the contests and all the years I've been in bodybuilding, I've never seen a reception like you got at the Brooklyn Academy of Music that night. And I'm telling you, for 20 minutes, Lou Ferrigno was there too.
Yeah.
For 20 minutes, the audience was on their feet, screaming and applauding throughout his whole and of course my buddy Harold Poole was his chief competitor. Now Harold, was living in New York. He got a good amount of audience reception, but it was nothing compared to Larry. And even as a kid, I was a teenager. I said to myself, "There's no way Harold's going to win."
Right, so, they can't.
Larry, I hate to use it, they literally brought the house down.
Yeah.
I'm sure the judges would probably feel there'd be a riot if they didn't give it to Larry.
Yeah.
But to this day, I think we talked about this. I mean, you could say that maybe I'm not objective because Harold was a friend of mine, and I didn't know Larry Scott from Adam back then, but I did know Harold Poole. I still feel to this day that Harold should have won because Harold, Larry was great. I mean, his arms and shoulders were unbeatable at the time. Still one of the best in bodybuilding history, but Harold had a more complete physique, a much better back. He had better legs. The body. He was a little bit soft, but the overall. But Larry wasn't ripped either.
Right.
So, and Harold was a little taller. If you really judge objectively, Harold, again, it would have been a close contest. Harold, to me, should have gotten the edge.
Yeah.
Believe, even if I didn't know Harold.
Yeah.
So that was but this getting back to Bob and Rory, it was equally. I mean, it was like I say, I thought Rory won. I was a little surprised, but then again, like I said, Bob looked fantastic. I mean, he had a head to toe body, great calf.
Yeah.
Can't fault the guy. You can't say, well, this guy has no bit. Like there's many contests where you've seen a guy win and you scratch your head and say, how did this guy win? It's like Harry Johnson in the 1959 AAU Mr. America. The guys who placed second through fifth were all better than him.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
But that's the way it is.
Yeah. I remember that routine that Rory did. I like you said, Bob was good too, but Rory's was it wasn't like technically perfect. Like he was like moving a little weird sometimes between the poses, but he was so into the music. It was so emotional and the crowd picked up on that. And the reaction from the crowd was amazing. I think it's one of the best routines I've ever seen because it gets you like emotionally moved, when you watch it.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, the audience went crazy over
that. My daughter has his picture on her wall. Rory Leidelmeyer.
see that that's just lacking so much today. I mean, I don't see people involved in their posing like that are just so in tune with the music. And man, you could just feel the passion when he was doing that routine. It was amazing.
Well, even though he wasn't as passionate, if you think back, my friend Sean Ray also used to get into that was one of his little traits. When Sean posed, he whatever song we'd be playing, he'd be lip syncing in a song as he's posing, and he's posing directly in tune with the music. So like you said, I totally agree. You don't see that anymore.
No.
Guys don't do that,
And it was amazing, like you said, with Rory, to hear the audience's reaction when he did connect to the music and he was feeling it. They pick up on that, they can pick up on that vibration, and it's just,
plus
I get goosebumps when I watch, I've watched that routine 1,000,000 times on video and I still get goosebumps when I watch it.
Yeah, I'm sure that when you play the routine with this video, I'm sure that people will definitely see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That Rory was.
It almost brings tears to my eyes because I'm like, God, bodybuilding used to be so great in the 80s. It's gone.
It's all gone. It's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It is. It is.
I mean, it's probably why I was a bodybuilding, not just involved as a writer, but I really was I was a fan of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I have to really be honest, and I don't get me wrong. I still train. I don't call myself a bodybuilder because to me, a bodybuilder is somebody who's trying to get big and is competitive. I'm just a guy trying to keep in shape right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual bodybuilding contests, I almost hate to say this, I don't have a great interest in them anymore. And Richard Baldwin said the same thing, my friend Richard Baldwin.
Yeah.
And I think it had a lot to do. It's not just the different physiques we see, John. I mean, it's just that the showmanship is not there.
Yeah.
It's not there. I mean, it's boring. A lot of
it is boring.
I mean, it's just plain boring.
Yeah.
If a couple of guys like Rory or Bob, I think I probably would be much more interested to tell it because there's some creativity involved.
Well, also, when you had the Nationals back then, it was like when the show was coming up, it was like everybody kind of knew who the top guys were going to be. It was almost like the Olympia. Like everybody knew who the top 5 guys were. So they knew Rory was going in it. They knew Bob was going in it, and then Mike Christian, who was 3rd. He won, I think, the Mr. California that year, and he looked fantastic too, right?
It was in fantastic shape. Mike was always in. I don't recall seeing. Let me think. I don't recall ever seeing Mike Christian out of shape.
Me neither. He's always ripped.
Always in shape. Not once did he enter where you'd say to him, "Wow, Mike looks noticeably off."
Yeah.
Like you could say about that 90 Olympia we talked about. Where they tested for drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys were not in their best shape, and you could see it.
Right.
Mike Christian was always in shape.
Always, yeah.
He's still in great shape. He's in his what?
Yeah, he is. He is.
I don't know whether he's in his 60s or late 60s or something like that.
Gotta be late. He's older than Lee Haney, so yeah.
I've seen some pictures of Mike. Is he in Texas? I don't know. I think
I think he's in Texas. Yeah.
Guy is still in great shape.
Yeah.
Great guy, Mike. Great
guy.
That
was what was so crazy about him back then was he kind of had the muscularity or the conditioning of a lightweight, but he was a heavyweight.
No, I know. Amazing.
Let's welcome Mike Christian.
Yeah.
He was tall also.
Yeah. Remember how mad he was when he got third place in that show?
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
He was going to walk off stage.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember looking.
Gentlemen, please pose down. Thank you, gentlemen, to present the trophies. Hello.
In fifth place, number 70, Richard Gaspari. In fourth place, in the heavyweight class, number 77, Matt Mendenhall.
Okay, here we go. The top three. In third place, Mike Christian.
Let's be good sports on stage, too.
The 1983 National Bodybuilding Heavyweight Champion, Bob Paris. Second place goes to Rory Leidelmeyer.
May we have Paul Love and Jim Mannion please come up on stage?
Mike, can you wait just a second? Get a picture quickly, would you please? Get your pictures quickly, very quickly. Please pose, gentlemen.
As they say, that's competition.
Congratulations, one and all. Thank you very much.
Mike was, he was a nice guy, a great guy, but remember, he used to be a gang leader.
Yeah.
And he had a little underlying violence in his personality.
Yeah, yeah.
Him get mad at people, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Face looks. And he luckily nothing happened. Like I'd see him get arguments with some of the competitors, on some of the tours I went on, Europe.
Yeah.
But I look at him and I'm thinking, Jesus, is this the old gangbanger coming out?
Yeah.
Luckily nothing happened, but
yeah,
get a look on his face that was scary when he got angry at somebody.
Yeah. He was a very emotional guy. Like when he was up, and then when he was down, he was down.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I seen him like win contests, and man, he was the happiest guy in the world.
Up in the air.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was the first professional bodybuilding show in Orange County. I'd like to take this minute as you're looking on stage.
Yeah. And then when he lose, he was like so disappointed. He would take it very hard.
that because he did train hard. Mike was very dead. Some guys, they just, it depends. Some guys just, if they convince themselves that they're going to win and they don't, it's like a house falling on them. They just can't handle it emotionally.
Well, that show was so tough because between him, Bob, and Rory, I mean, I think they were all 2 points apart. I mean, somebody's going to have to take third out of the three. I mean, it was so close.
Any one of those guys could have won. Mike could have won.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if Rory was a little bit off, if Bob, let's say, held a little water in him, Mike walked away with the title.
Mike did win the next year. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. And then Matt Mendenhall was fourth, and he was second the year before. Yeah, the year before when Haney won, he was second. So he was probably the favorite. But I think he was living in California at the time. And what I read in the magazines was his wife caught the flu, and then he caught the flu from her because obviously they're sleeping together. And then he lost weight, and he didn't look his best. He looked like he lost weight. He looked smaller.
He looked much smaller, and but he was a little bit also not really ripped. But Matt Mendenhall is another guy who they always talked about could have been probably one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And the photos of Matt Mendenhall never really do the guy justice. You had to see this guy in person. His calves were gigantic in person. I mean, huge, and he had huge forearms, a small, tight waist,
great legs,
broad shoulders, big back. In fact, the famous statement that Lee Haney made.
Yeah.
I don't know after the '82 show or when, but he said that that Matt Mendenhall was the most genetically gifted bodybuilder ever, which is a big statement coming from a guy who won the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about guys like Sergio Oliva, who's another genetic freak. And then, for Lee to say that about Matt says a lot.
Yeah.
It shows how good Matt really, but to see Matt is a guy, I mean, I got to know Matt pretty well. He's a very nice guy. I think he passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Chiropractor, moved back to East somewhere. Very nice guy. We used to talk all the time, but see, Matt, to me, never really was 100% confident of himself. Which I don't think yet that you ever saw the full possibilities of Matt Mendenhall. I don't think he ever really reached 100% of his peak. For whatever inner demons he had, he never really gave it his all. If he had, it would have been, I don't know who could have beaten him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, I don't think even Rory or Bob Paris could have beaten this guy.
Right.
He put it together and really got peaked to 100% with his structure, his size, his lack of weak points. I don't see anybody beating this guy.
Yeah.
That's how good but he never really got that look. He was better at some time, like in '82, like you say, he was better than he was in '83.
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever really reached 100% of his peak. I really don't.
He looked better the next year in '84 because it was close between him and Mike Christian.
Right.
He wasn't as ripped as Mike, so Mike beat him.
Yeah, that's a problem that Matt had. He never really got real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to be hard for the judges. I mean, I know if I was judging, I would have had a hard time putting him second because he was so proportionate and he had so much muscle size and the symmetry. He was like, everything was perfect, just was lacking that little bit of definition. And then when you got somebody like Gary Stridham, the year he beat him in '86, because Gary was ripped, but he had no back.
No back.
I mean, he couldn't compare to the beautiful physique of Mendenhall. And Mendenhall was close, but he wasn't that ripped.
Yeah.
And it was just like, God, how do you put that guy second? It's just such a perfect physique,
Gary was another example of a guy who, I mean, like you say, his back, I remember him getting ready when he was making a comeback a couple of years ago. He was going to compete in a pro show in Colorado, if I remember correctly. And he took off his shirt in Gold's Gym and he started posing. And he had these little accolade guys in the gym that, kept kissing up to him all the time,
Yeah.
He's following him around the gym, and they would say, oh, unbelievable. Oh, wow, Gary, nobody's like this. And I'm standing away looking, because I knew Gary pretty well. And then he turned to the back and I'm thinking, he's not going to win anything. He's got no back.
Right.
Not only did he have he didn't have any thickness. He didn't have any width. I mean,
It was really weird.
It looked like a guy who didn't train his back.
Right.
And I tried to figure that out. I said, he had those gigantic deltoids and he had the pecs, and he, from the front he looked great.
Yeah, great.
Then one day I watched him train back, and I think I realized why his back was like that, because he would train it heavy. He'd like do one-arm dumbbell rows. He'd go halfway up.
Mm.
He never contracted. He never, in other words, any exercise he did for back, the upper back where you have all the definition, it wasn't contracting.
Okay.
Like partial movements.
Yeah.
You know, Gary was kind of a, you know, nice guy, but he's not the kind of guy you can go up to and suggest things to, because he'd get pissed off at you. He said, "Who the hell are you to tell me? I'm the national, and you're telling me how to train." You know,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I would have. I would say, "Gary, did you ever think of maybe doing fuller movements?" You know, I did Mr. Olympia, but don't listen to me. You know, but I wouldn't say that to the guy because I know his personality, you know.
Well, fifth that year at the heavyweight class in the Nationals was Rich Gaspari, who was only 20 years old.
Yeah, Rich.
Yeah.
Another guy who I became good friends with, Rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very muscular.
So I want to tell you a little, I mean, I'm sure you heard this, but there's a little backstory to that Nationals. So Rich was from New Jersey, and he won the Junior Nationals that year at 20 years old. I think he was 205 in the contest.
Right.
He had like a Tom Platz physique, gigantic legs, kind of blocky, but just so much. Well, they actually compared him to like Tim Belknap. They said he was like so much dense, heavy, thick muscle, and he was ripped. And he walked over everybody at the Junior Nationals. He beat David Hawk.
Right.
Then he goes to the Nationals, and he goes in as a heavyweight. He's only like 205. He's up against taller, bigger guys like, you know, Mendenhall, Mike Christian, Rory, and Bob. So you remember the guy named Jeff Williams?
Yes, black guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy at the time was in.
I'll tell you a story about Jeff Williams when you finish your story. Go ahead.
Okay. So I remember him because he was in Weeder's magazine all the time, and they were comparing him to Arnold. They said he's going to be like the next Arnold.
Right.
And they had like, here's Jeff Williams' back routine, here's Jeff Williams' arm routine, and he was incredible. He guy had an unbelievable physique.
Great physique. Great physique.
So I don't think he was in it in '82, but '83 was like he won some other contest in California, the Gold Cup or something.
Yeah.
And then they were really promoting him heavy. I remember he was in some magazines, and then he was in Weeder's magazine a lot. So he was kind of one of the favorites. So I guess the story I heard was he goes into after the prejudging, he knew he wasn't going to win. He knew it was going to.
Talking about Gaspari or Williams?
Williams.
Hey, go ahead.
So he knew the top three was going to be Bob, Rory, and Mike. And he was expecting to win.
Okay.
So after the prejudging, he went to SeaWorld, which was in San Jose. He just said, "Fuck it, I'm going to SeaWorld." So he didn't even go to the night show. So Gaspari was in sixth place, and then he moved up to fifth because Jeff Williams went to SeaWorld.
Oh.
So what's interesting is it shows you how things can happen, you know, how fate can step in.
That's true.
Rich is living in New Jersey, but because he made the top 5 at the Nationals and he's only 20 years old, Ed Connors from Gold's Gym sees this contest, and he goes up to Rich and he says, "Hey, why don't you come to California?" He goes, "You can manage one of my gyms out here." And he goes, "You'll be out in the hotbed of bodybuilding, and you'll make a living for yourself. You know, you might maybe be a pro bodybuilder because you got a lot of potential." Now, I wonder if Jeff Williams would have went to the contest and Rich would have got sixth if Ed Connors would have noticed him, and then maybe Rich Gaspari never would have went out to California. He never would have trained with Lee Haney, and maybe he never would have got his pro card. You know what I mean?
A good point. But I'll tell you the quick story about Jeff Williams. I was training at Gold's, and I used to talk to Jeff Williams. I remember he was doing a seated calf raise, and I was standing there talking to him between sets. And this guy, not a bodybuilder, some guy, just a regular guy in the gym, comes up to Jeff Williams, and he says, "Hey, how many?" Because, you know, Jeff was a very impressive guy, as he said.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, how much steroids do you use?" And I remember thinking, wrong. You don't ask a guy that question, especially when you don't know. Jeff Williams goes, "Who the fuck are you?" Says, "Where do you come off asking me how many steroids?" And I thought he was going to hit the guy.
Yeah.
Really got mad at the guy. And the guy was just literally ran away. I mean, it was a funny scene. I said, Jeff, you all right? Yeah, he laughed about it after. He says, can you believe this guy? He's coming up. No hello, nothing.
Right.
First thing he says to me is how many steroids I use. I said,
how did he look in person, Jerry?
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very full, very thick.
Just as good as his pictures?
Yeah, great arms. He really was a great bodybuilder. Really was.
He wasn't that tall either, right?
Oh, no, he's about 5'7", maybe.
5'8", yeah.
Yeah, medium height, yeah.
That's what I liked about him. He was like an average height, but he was so big, man.
Yeah, very thick.
I could see the comparisons to Arnold in a way because he was so big and thick, you know?
Yeah, the big delts, big show, very good bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked him. I was hoping he would turn pro and, have a good career, but he never really did anything.
Saw him a couple of weeks later, and because remember, I knew him. We talked. He was coming in the gym, and I said, "Excuse me, Jeff, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure, Jerry." And I said, "How many steroids?" we both had a level. Yeah, I'll never forget that. How mad he got. I thought he was going to slug the guy.
Yeah.
Jeez, how many steroids Jeez.
Well, let's talk about let me see if there's anybody else in the heavyweights we want to mention. Neil Spruce was 8th.
Neil went on to he started a nutrition company.
He's very successful now.
Yeah, he wound up buying a big house, and he has occasional get-togethers at his house.
Yeah, that's what I had him on this show with Rick Valente last year when we did that tribute to Mike Quinn.
Yeah, of course I'm never invited, but let's not get into that.
I had somebody write to me an email, and they said they want a signed photo from you, Jerry.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
They said, would you charge him? I said, well, I'll ask him. I'm doing a show with him tonight.
I would charge him if I could find him. I used to, about my 8x10s. I told you that a long time ago, right?
No.
Well, when I was competing, I was competing in a beach, one of the Muscle Beach shows. Artie Zella, of course, one of the great photographers. He took the best photo of me ever taken of me as a bodybuilder. It was a side tricep. You could see it on my face.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah.
And I like
the mustache and the black hair.
Yeah. Exactly right. That was 74, I think it was. I liked it so much. I went to this place in Hollywood that can make reproductions of photos.
Yeah.
And I ordered 10 8x10s of that photo because Artie had given me the original photo. So I brought the photo. I said, I'd like 10 copies of this photo. Okay. A week. When will be ready? In a week. I come back a week later. They hand me this big envelope, and it's got 100 of photos in there. And I said, wait a minute, I ordered 10. So then he looks back, he says, oh, your order got confused with another muscle guy named Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Arnold ordered 100 photos and got
10.
I ordered 10 photos and got 100. So I had these photos for years, and I don't know where they're in here somewhere. I got to find them.
Yeah.
Every time, one time that one of the managers at Gold's, this is a guy, what's his name? Oh God, he's actually on Facebook now. He's gotten really buff. I can't remember his name, but he was the manager at Gold's at the time, and he asked me for a photo. He says, "Do you have any bodybuilding photos?" So I brought him. I had still had those 100 photos.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave him one of the 8x10. I said, well, "What are you going to do with it?" He says, "We're going to put it up on the wall."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Oh, that's great. I appreciate that." Because remember, even then I had been a member of Gold's for many years.
Yeah.
I expected to see this little 8x10, and how most gyms have the 8x10 photos in frame. I go in the gym a week later, and there's a 6 foot. He'd blown it up to 6 feet.
Holy shit!
Giant photo. And
wow.
He put it on the wall in the middle room. And John, for weeks, people would come up to me and say, "Hey, Jerry, whose body is that you pasted your head over?" At first, I used to get really pissed off. I said, "That's me, you moron." I said, I wouldn't paste my head over somebody else's body.
Right.
And after it happened so many times that I got sick of getting mad about it. So then I would say, "Oh, that was Rich Gaspari. He allowed me to make a joke about it."
Right.
They took down the photo after a couple of years later, and I don't know what they did with it. But Gold's Gym today has these big photos of people that never even trained at the gym, but me, who's been there over 50 years, there's no photo. But I'd love for them to find that photo. I don't know whether they destroyed it or what.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Put it up again, because people don't know that I competed in body. A lot of people don't know that I was a bodybuilder.
Yeah. With the first cover I ever made, I was in bodybuilding a long time. I had, all these teenage shows I did, and then I was in the NPC for years, and I never even made. I might have had one or two pictures in a magazine, but nothing. And then when I won the Natural Universe, they had a natural bodybuilding magazine called Natural Physique, I think, and they put me on the cover.
Okay.
So I went out and bought like 20 copies. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And I remember this girl I was dating, some guy from her church, like she brought it to the church, I think, she was showing people she knew. And some guy goes, "Oh, did he go to like Six Flags amusement park and do one of those things where they put someone else's head on a body?" Oh man, was I mad. I was so pissed, like all these years of work, and I finally make it, and this guy's making a joke,
That's so you can't help being insulted by that a little bit.
Right. Like I don't look like that,
Sometimes it doesn't happen much now, but a couple of years ago, I go like in let's say a market somewhere, a store, and somebody would say to me, "Hey, did you used to work out?" I used to try and figure out what do they mean by that.
Yeah.
Do they mean that I'm a fairly big guy and I stopped working out?
Yeah.
I wasn't walking around with my shirt off. I mean, they couldn't tell whether I was fat or muscular.
Right.
And then I realized that they thought that, I don't know, for some reason they thought I stopped working out. I never did, of course, but I remember I also used to get a little bit. I said no, I still work out.
Yeah.
After a while, again, it happened when it happens.
It doesn't bother you.
You can't get annoyed about it, and sometimes I would just make a joke. I worked out 55 years ago and haven't worked out. Now what I do is I'm in synchronized swimming now.
And I'm very good. Yeah, I think if somebody would say that now, I would laugh about it. But back then I was so sensitive about it because that was the first magazine I ever made. I thought it was a really big deal, and this idiot's making a joke of it, Yeah,
I remember when I was 19, I was visiting my mother in New York, and there was this girl I was interested in, and I think it was either Strength and Health or Muscular Development had come out, and I didn't know this was going to happen. There was a photo of me in there. It was a photo of me taken a couple of months before in California. I was 19 years old, and I was sitting on the couch with this girl, and what I did is I put there was like a coffee table. I strategically put the magazine and opened it to the photo of me, and I didn't say anything. I'm talking to her, and then she glances down. She goes like this. "What is that? You?" I said, "Does it look like me?" She says, "Yeah, that's me." I mean, her whole attitude, John, changed.
Yeah.
Attitude. Suddenly, it was all over me. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, really? It worked.
Yeah, it really worked. I mean, I still remember her name was Randy. I remember it sounds, but she was a girl, very pretty, very pretty. But I mean, I never forget. She was impressed.
Yeah, great.
It looked pretty good in the photo, if I say so myself. I had nice abs, stuff,
Right.
I mean,
Oh yeah, he saw you in a whole new light.
Yeah, a whole new life. Because remember, people who know me know I was never one of these guys, show off guys in the gym. I always wore sweatshirts. I mean, it wasn't until like 20 years ago I started training in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, years and years, when I was in competitive bodybuilding, I always trained in a sweatsuit. Even when boiling hot, back in New York, 105 degrees humidity, I'd wear a sweatshirt.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I was just shy about showing what I looked like. And
Yeah.
I guess really when I analyzed, I was probably afraid that somebody would say, "Hey, your arms don't look too good." It was, in fact, I always tell people, like, the reason I don't wear shorts in the gym, even when it's warm, is because I don't like looking at my calves. Because I never had great calves.
Yeah.
My calves have atrophied so much that I'm afraid if I look at my calves, that I'll get so discouraged because once you're a bodybuilder, you're always a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
that I'll get so discouraged and disappointed that I'll lose interest in working out. I always wear pants. I always wear sweatpants. I never wear shorts.
Yeah.
Arnold was just the opposite, by the way. Arnold, he
would show off his calves, man.
Yeah, he used to wear shorts because he wanted to see his calves.
Yeah, to motivate him to train him harder.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Well, the light heavyweight class that year was also really good. Chuck Williams, that black bodybuilder, really thick, huge arms. Remember him?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. What was the other guy who I was talking about before? The guy who got mad at the steroid question?
Jeff Williams.
Oh, I confused Jeff with Chuck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was Chuck Williams that got mad.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't the guy have an incredible body?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his legs were a little behind his upper body, but man, his upper body had some. His arms were so. It looked like his biceps were like that wide, you know.
Yeah, he was very thick.
Yeah. So he won, I think, pretty much unanimously. He beat Moses Maldonado that year.
Yeah, who was a relative of Johnny Maldonado, right?
Yeah, that's what we said on the last show. Yeah. There was 19 guys in that division, so it was really tough. Jerry Scalisi was 6th.
Did he go on to win the AAU America?
I think he won his class. Yeah, I don't think he won the overall.
Okay.
And the middleweights, Charles Glass was the winner that year.
Today, one of the most famous trainers.
Yeah, I think Charles used to compete as a light heavyweight, and that year he went down to middleweight, which was a good move because he had that thickness too in his upper body, and he would come in really rock hard, just like Chuck Williams did.
And Charles Glass, I interviewed him when he was competing. He never dieted, he told me. Never.
Yeah, I remember you told me that. Yeah.
French fries right up to the contest.
That's unbelievable.
He was once the captain of the gymnastic team at
Right.
University of California, Berkeley. So in his posing routine, he would do gymnastic moves.
Yeah.
The audience, they don't expect that from a because bodybuilders, they're stiff and they're muscle bound and they can't move. And this guy would be doing splits and somersaults and backflips. The audience would go nuts. I mean, they didn't put him completely by surprise. And he influenced Flex Wheeler to do it later on.
Oh, okay.
He did that famous pose where he'd flex his double on bicep and gradually go down.
Drop down into a split. Yeah.
That he got from Charles Glass.
I didn't know he influenced Flex. I know he was training Flex, and he was good.
Yeah.
Flex, so
I think Charles told him to do that. He says it would really impress the audience. And because again, you know how it is. Bodybuilders, this muscle bound stuff you hear about.
Yeah.
All bodybuilders are stiff and they can't move.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, a lot of the way some of the guys walk around, it does look like they're stiff. I mean, they're walking like
Yeah.
It looks like
Charles even did a backflip, right?
He did a backflip.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a real gymnast,
Yeah.
And I think I told you I ran into him a couple of years ago at the Fit Expo in LA. He was at a booth. I very rarely see him because he trains people very early in the morning at Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, Charles, I got to ask you something." I said, "You remember when we did that interview in the 80s?" I said, about your diet, and you basically told me you eat whatever you want all the way up to the show. I'm sure now that as an older guy, you've adjusted your diet, and you probably." He says, "No, I still eat whatever I want."
Wow, crazy.
Sure enough, he was still in great shape. He was just a, genetic freak that didn't
great metabolism. Yeah,
he just didn't put on body fat. Well, lucky guy,
And Lindsey McKinney was second. Lindsey was a shorter black bodybuilder, very thick. I think he was from Detroit, maybe. Or Michigan. I think he's from Michigan.
Vaguely remember him. Yeah, vaguely. Very short guy.
I remember he had like 8 kids. Remember Yeah. He used to always say that in all his articles. He had like 8 kids.
Wow. 8 kids. Jeez.
And I don't think he ever won his class at the Nationals, but he came really close a couple times. Like this year, he got second.
Yeah, I remember him.
And John Arnita, who you were talking about, Rory Leidelmeyer's training partner, protege, he was third.
John Arnita.
local favorite, John Aramita.
And Ernie Santiago was fourth from Hawaii. Remember Ernie?
Santiago from Hawaii. Yeah, he used to come to Golds. I spoke to him a couple of times.
Yeah.
I remember, like I say, I met him. I think Bob Jockwitz, of all people, introduced me to him.
Oh, okay.
And then a couple of years later, he came back to Golds, and I went up to him and said, "Hey, Ernie, how you doing?" And he says, "Have we met?" Had no recollection of ever talking to me.
Oh.
I didn't think. I said, "Yeah, we spoke a couple of years ago on this and that."
Well, he did something amazing that year because he won the USA overall as a middleweight in '83.
Right.
Which was unbelievable. I mean, very rarely does a middleweight win a national level contest, overall.
He had a very nice physique. Good physique.
Yeah, he was very ripped all the time, really rock hard.
Yeah, no body fat. That's true.
Like, not the greatest symmetry, I remember, but really, really rock hard.
Sure.
And the lightweight was Jesse Lujan. Remember him?
Vaguely, yeah.
I think he was a doctor.
Yes, okay. All right, I think I do remember him. Yeah. Yeah.
And Dean Tornabene was second.
Dean, yeah, I knew him.
Yeah. I think Dean eventually went on to win his class at the Nationals, but not this year.
Right.
So that was a great Nationals. I think people still talk about it today, especially that heavyweight class,
Oh, it's tremendous. Those guys were really in shape.
Final competition will decide the men's overall national champion. Will it be the heavyweight, Bob Harris? Light heavyweight champ, Chuck Williams. Charles Glass, the middleweight winner. Or Dr. Jesse Lujan, the lightweight champion.
Okay, let's give these people a pose, Doc. Go to it.
As a former American champion, I'm pleased to announce the 1983 American Men's Champion is Bob Paris.
Take your pictures. Remember the party over at the Holiday Inn.
Please come and join us.
Drive carefully.
And don't mug any judges outside the door.
You must feel wonderful. What a satisfaction.
I feel great. I can't tell you how I feel. It's a really, it's a whole year build-up, and it's released all in one day, and I really feel good.
What's the first thing you do after a contest now?
Relax a little bit. But now, you have the World Championships in a couple weeks, so it's back in the gym tomorrow. So I'll go out with my friends and all my family that's up here supporting me tonight, and we'll have a nice meal, be a good family, and, have a good time.
For people who don't understand, how many hours do you think went in during this past year? How many hours have you put in?
Well, there's not too many hours of the day during the past year that I didn't think at one time or another, and somehow or another, about this contest. And some manner of preparation or my diet, my training, you can't even add up the number of hours, I don't think. As far as actual training hours, 3 to 4 a day.
I know you went over afterwards, and you went over to Rory, and I suppose you went to Mike, and you tried to express how much you felt about how their disappointment. Can you put yourself in their place?
I certainly can, because I have been in their place, and I know that they're very disappointed, because every athlete, you have to understand, at this level of competition, puts so much intensity into their training and diet, and they have to mentally gear themselves so that they know that they're the winner beforehand, and so therefore there's a big letdown. I hope that Rory and Mike can feel happy because they both looked fantastic. They both have made great improvement and came into the show in excellent shape.
Bob Paris went on to win the World Championship, as did light heavyweight winner Chuck Williams and middleweight winner Charles Glass.